Start with Shanti Mantra. This in the book Universal Prayers. This is on page 72, at the top of page 72. English translation is on page 73, top. This is from the Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Om Yo Brahmanam Vidadhati Purvam Yo Vai Vedamshta Pahinoti Tasmai Tamhadevam Atmabuddhi Prakasham Mumukshurvai Sharanamaham Prapadye Nishkalam Nishkriyam Shantam Niravadyam Niranjanam Amritasya Param Setum Dagden Dhanavimanalam Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I am a seeker desiring liberation. I seek refuge in that effulgent being whose light reveals the knowledge of the Atman, who first created this cosmic soul and delivers to him the supreme knowledge, who is without parts, without action, tranquil, without fault, without taint, who is the supreme bridge to immortality, and is self-effulgent like a blazing fire consuming its fuel. May that supreme being bestow its grace upon us all. Om peace. May there be peace and joy in our hearts. May there be peace and harmony amongst all the beings. And may there be peace everywhere in nature. So let us study. We just began chapter number 3, which is Karma Yoga. The gist of Karma Yoga, most essential parts of Karma Yoga were already introduced in the second chapter, in verses 47-48, and a few verses following that. Now this in third chapter, it's elaboration and giving more details of Karma Yoga, and the concept of cosmic yajna comes in this chapter. Cosmic yajna means in this whole universe, at every level, beginning from the individual one small being, even a small creature, beginning from that until the entire cosmos, yajna is happening at all times. So what is it yajna? Why does it happen? What does it mean to us in our daily lives? All those things will come in this chapter. Now, as this chapter also begins with Arjuna's question, asking Sri Krishna, two paths have been spoken about. The path of knowledge, Jnana Yoga, and the path of Karma Yoga, selfless action, which is better. So in response to that, Bhagavan Sri Krishna gives the answer beginning from shloka number 3. So last time we began shloka number 3, we will do that. I'll chant shloka number 3. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Lokesmin Dividha Nishtha Pura Prokta Maya Nagha Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam. Asmin Loke, in this world, Pura means earlier, in the remote past. Maya Dividha Nishta Prokta. Maya means by me. Bhagavan is saying, I prescribed or taught Dvida Nishta, two kinds of, two paths. The word Nishta means commitment to one particular cause. So we seekers generally choose one path that is suitable for them, commitment to one path. Some people choose the path of Bhakti Yoga, worshipping personal God, devotion. Some people choose the path of Karma Yoga, selfless action. Some people choose the path of Jnana Yoga. I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm the Atman. Maintain that position at all times, under all circumstances. That is the path of Jnana Yoga. Now, Bhagavan taught two yogas earlier. Asmin loke pura dvida nishta maya prokta. Two kinds of two paths were prescribed by me. What are the two paths? In the second line, Sankhyanam Jnana Yogena. Sankhya is a person. Sankhya is also a philosophy. Sankhya also describes a person. For people, Sankhyanam is for plural, for people who have a very strong sense of Atma Anatma Viveka. In the commentary explaining this word Sankhya, Shankaracharya says Sankhyanam Atmanatma Vishaya Viveka Vijnanavatam. That means those people who have a very strong conviction that they are not the body mind, they are the Atman. Atma, Anatma, Viveka. What is Atman? What is Anatman? What is self? What is non-self? This is the gist of Vedanta. This whole universe, which we see and experience in our life, is all Anatma, non-self. Non-self means not the Atman. What is the true reality? Atman alone is the true reality. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. That is how Vedanta is defined. Brahma Satyam, Brahman alone is true. Satya means always present, unchanging, eternal, infinite. Only that can be Satyam, true. Anything that changes, anything that comes and goes is not real. It is there but not real. Mithya. The word used is Mithya. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. That kind of conviction, if somebody has, very strong conviction, they must abide by it, simply not believing in it. Simply believing is not enough. One must be able to practice it all the time. For those people who are few in number, many of us cannot do. Some people can do. For majority is a difficult path. For those who can always follow the conviction that this world is unreal, Brahman alone is real, and I am that Brahman. I am Brahmasmi. For such people, Jnana Yoga is prescribed. The Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna in many places he says, for the Kali Yuga, for the majority of people, Jnana Yoga is not suitable. It's difficult to practice. They can practice it, but it is hard to always maintain the position that I am not the body, I am not the mind. Because we have such strong body consciousness from the moment of birth. We grow up with the idea that I am this body. We grow up with the idea that I am the body, I am this mind. That's how we spend all our life, all our time. To give that up and to say I am not this body, mind, I am the Atman, and to follow that under all circumstances is difficult. For those who can do, they will do. It's the path. For the majority of people, what is the path? Second line, second part of second line. Karma yogena yoginam. For people who have body consciousness, who are inclined to action. We are all inclined to action. We saw before, we cannot remain without performing action even for a short time. It will come again in the 5th verse. Without performing anything, we cannot stay. Because karma is a physiological, psychological imperative. That means the body and mind force us to engage in action. We will see that when you come to sloka number 5. For majority of people, karma yoga is the path. Now the question comes, how can karma yoga lead to self-realization, moksha? How can karma yoga lead to moksha? I want moksha, liberation. Can karma yoga lead to moksha? That is the question. That will be answered in this chapter. How does karma yoga lead us to liberation? Is very briefly, it will come again. Briefly, it is like this. When we perform all actions without attachment to karma and karma phala, as required in sloka number 48, second chapter, 248, key verse for karma yoga, 248. As when you perform all actions according to instruction given in 248, then what happens? Mind becomes pure, free from selfishness. When the mind becomes pure, free from desire, anger, jealousy, and etc., then what happens? When mind becomes pure, mind can grasp the nature of the self. Chitta Shuddhi means purification of the mind. Chitta Shuddhi happens when we perform all action without attachment to karma and karma phala, as required before. When mind becomes pure from all the impurities, then self-knowledge will dawn. We will realize that we are not the body mind. Purity of mind is very necessary for self-knowledge. That's how it leads to moksha. That will all come in for detailed study. One thing to be noted in this third shloka is, as Sri Ramakrishna said, God himself has provided many different paths. Everybody is not suitable for every path. Everybody cannot follow one path. We all need different paths because our abilities are different, our temperaments are different, our inclinations are different. We all need different paths. Sri Ramakrishna gives an example. In a family, supposing there are 4 children, and mother has to prepare food for all the 4 children. She will make 2, 3, 4 different items to meet the needs of each of her children. All children cannot eat the same food. Their digestive abilities are different, their ages are different. Some are very young, they need very soft food. Some are teenagers, they can digest any kind of food. So the mother knows the need of each of her children. So she prepares different dishes to suit the needs of her different children. In the same way, Lord Bhagavan has shown different paths to meet the needs of different seekers. All seekers don't have the same ability or same opportunity or inclination to follow one path. That is the very special feature of Hindu Dharma, Vedanta. Other religions, we don't want to speak about other religions, ill of them, but they provide just one path. And they say this is the path to God, and if you follow this, you will reach God. If you don't follow this, you will not reach God. They will say like that. But in that respect, very important, essential aspect, Hindu Dharma, Sanatana Dharma is very different from all other religions. It's only in the Sanatana Dharma, that means in the Vedas. This is not a new teaching. Even before, long before Bhagavad Gita, this teaching was there in the Vedas. The Rig Veda, which is the earliest of the Vedas, there the rishis have realized that reality is one, ultimate reality. You may call it by any name. You can worship in any form, in any way, but reality is one. That's the essential part of Hindu Dharma. One reality, one God. It can be known by different names. It can be worshipped in different forms. Ekam Sadvipra Bahuda Vadanti. That's an oft-quoted passage from the Rig Veda. Reality is one. People speak about it, worship it in different ways. So freedom of thought, freedom of religion is the key, is a hallmark of Hindu Dharma. That freedom is granted to us from the earliest times, from the Vedic times. It's a part of Hindu Dharma. Freedom to worship in any way you like. If I worship Rama, other people can worship Krishna or Shiva. I should not say Rama is the only God. If you don't worship Rama, you will not go to reach God. That nobody can say that in Hindu Dharma. That's a very special feature of Hindu Dharma. That harmony of paths, multiplicity of paths, all paths leading to the same goal, but paths are different. Paths are many, but the goal is the same for everybody. That comes in the Shiva Mahimna Stotram, which has come sometime in the Shanti Mantra, use it. Swami Vivekananda, in his very famous lecture at the World Parliament of Religions in September 1893, he gave several lectures. The first lecture, short lecture, Swamiji's speech at the World Parliament of Religion, this sloka he quoted. He quoted in English because the people in the World Parliament, they couldn't understand Sanskrit, so he translated that one. He said, just as many rivers flowing in different directions, all reach the same ocean and merge with the ocean and become the ocean. In the same way, seekers of all religions, not only Hinduism, Hindus, Christians, Muslims, Jewish people, Zoroastrians, all those people following their own different religions, if they follow sincerely, they'll reach the same goal. That is the gist of Hindu Dharma. That is mentioned here in sloka number 3. Not in detail, but in a short form, Bhagavan Sri Krishna has mentioned the multiplicity of paths. And even in any one path, there are so many different subdivisions. For example, if you take Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion, worship of a personal God, there are also many different possibilities for there. God can have infinite rupa, ananta rupa. Ananta rupa means infinite form. God, you can't limit God to one form. God is infinite. You can't limit him to one form and say this is the only form of God. That is not right. He can have any number of forms. All forms are his forms. So that multiplicity of paths is available to everybody depending upon their temperament, taste, ability, environment in which they practice, live their lives, etc. So if you take Bhakti Yoga, you have, for example, there is one person who is interested in worshipping Krishna. Krishna can be worshipped in different ways. Some people can worship Krishna as a servant, dasya bhava. Dasa means a servant. Dasa means a servant. One person who worships Krishna, he can imagine himself to be the servant of Krishna, and Krishna can be thought of as the Prabhu, Lord. He is the Lord, I am a servant, I am doing all my actions as a servant, performs all his actions, service to serve his Lord. I am in that way I lead my life as a servant of Krishna. That is one possibility. Even in Bhakti Yoga, see how many different paths are there. Another person can say, Krishna is so down to earth. He does not stand on a pedestal and like other deities. He comes to our level. He can be a friend. It's called Sakhya Bhava. There are people like Arjuna, Sudama, all those people. They worship Krishna as a friend. They knew he was God, but they did not think of him as the creator. All those things. He's my friend. God is our very friend. That is possible. God can be thought of as our father or mother. That's very common. Tameva mata cha pita tameva. That sloka we know. God can be worshipped as father. Krishna is my father, like that. Or we can worship God as mother. That is also possible in Hindu Dharma. Sri Ramakrishna practiced that worshipping God as mother as his main spiritual practice. He practiced all the paths, but his main path was worshipping God as mother. At the end of his sadhana, Sri Ramakrishna said that after practicing all the various paths, including Tantra, Advaita, Vedanta, and Puri, Totapuri, after doing all of those things, he came to the final conclusion. You can read it in the Gospel. Sri Ramakrishna said, worshipping God as mother is the last word in spirituality. Last word, final word in spirituality is worshipping God as mother. So like this, we have multiplicity of approaches, which is a very special feature of Hindu Dharma. It provides a path for everyone, no matter what that person's ability is, inclination is, environment is. That is mentioned in sloka number 3. That's a very interesting verse. Jotomot Tatophat. Sri Ramakrishna said in very simply, in simple Bengali, as many paths, so many paths as there are seekers. Every path, every seeker can have his own path to God. That is speciality of Hindu Dharma. Now, we go to the next sloka, where Sri Krishna talks about how to become free from the bondage of karma, karma phala. Very important verse. Let us do sloka number 4. न कर्मणा मनारंभात् नैष्कर्म्यं पुरुषोऽश्नुते न च सन्न्यसनादेव सिद्धिं समधिगच्छति न कर्मणाम् अनारंभात् नैष्कर्म्यं पुरुषोऽश्नुते न च सन्न्यसनादेव सिद्धिं समधिगच्छति. Karmanam anarambhat. Arambha means beginning. Beginning to take some action. Arambha means beginning. Karmanam anarambhat, by not beginning any work. Simply saying, I'm not going to work, not doing anything. By doing that, Purushaha, a human being, Naishkarmyam na ashnute. Naishkarmyam Purusha ashnute. Na comes in the beginning, first word. A person cannot become free from karma by abstaining from karma. Nobody can say, I will not do any work. Don't want to get into the, entangle myself into the field of karma, karma phala. I will remain free from work. It's not physically possible to do that. Because our very nature makes us engage in karma. Later on in the later chapter, Sri Krishna says to Arjuna, Prakritiswam nyakshati, your very nature will make you get up and do something. You can try. One morning, if you say, today I'm not going to do any work, I will just remain in my bed. How long can we do that? It's not possible. We have to get up and engage in action. Even thinking is action. To think that I'm not doing any action itself is an action. So it's not possible. So karma has to be done. Then the question comes, if karma is imperative, is inescapable, then how can I become free from karma? How can I practice Jnana Yoga then? The answer is, karma, we can become free from karma by doing karma. It's like tax. How will you become free from the obligation to pay tax? By paying the tax. Pay it and be done with it. If you don't pay tax, you always owe tax. You will never be free from tax. How to become free? Do it and finish with it, and then you are free. Karma is like that. In the very first chapter of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, on the first page of first chapter, this question comes. M had gone there for the first time. Very first time, he went to Sri Ramakrishna with relative Siddhu, and several people were sitting in Sri Ramakrishna's room in Dakshineshwar, and some conversation was going on. M was very new, so he sat there quietly. And this was the conversation. Somebody asked Sri Ramakrishna, Sir, how long do we have to perform all our rituals? How long do we have to do all our karma, sandhya, puja, pilgrimage, charity, study of scriptures, all these things we have to do? How long this will go on? When can we stop this one? Sri Ramakrishna's reply impressed him. Sri Ramakrishna said, very interesting reply Sri Ramakrishna gave. When can we become free from karma? His reply was, when upon hearing the name of God once, if a person starts to shed tears of devotion, if a person's hair stands on end, if a person's voice chokes, when these three things happen, just upon hearing the name of God once, then that person becomes free from all obligations, no sandhya, no karma, no puja, nothing. He's already reached the goal. That is the way to become free from karma. Simply saying, I'm not going to do karma will not do it. We have to perform our obligatory duties. Then that's the way to become free from duties. That is explained in sloka number 4. Second line, Nacha sanyasana deva siddhim samadhigacchati sanyasanat eva, not sanyasana deva. Deva is to be split separately. Sanyasanat eva. Not by sannyasa. Sannyasa means renunciation. Not by renouncing work, a person cannot achieve siddhi. Na siddhim samadhigacha. Siddhi here means nashkarmya. Nashkarmya means freedom from work. Freedom from work, obligatory work. Body maintenance will continue, Sharira Yatra will continue, but other work will drop away. How will this will happen? When we achieve purity of mind, Chitta-Shuddhi, by performing all our actions as yajna, all our actions as offering, as we are told to do many times in the Gita, without attachment to karma phala, then mind becomes free and gradually work will fall away by itself. We don't have to give up work. By itself, it will drop away one by one. Person may come free from all obligations. That stage will come a little bit later. Until that stage comes, when work drops away by itself, we have to keep on performing our obligatory duties in a selfless manner, as described in the second chapter, Shloka 48, and in subsequent chapters, same instruction will come again and again. Now, in many places in the Gita, I shall mention two places. If you like, you can note down, otherwise you can just wait until we come to that slokas in later chapter. In sloka number 11, chapter 5, sloka number 11, Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, why action has to be done? Why we should do action? Supposing I say I don't have to go to work, then still some other action has to be done. Why? Why can't I remain free from action? Action has to be done to achieve freedom of purity of mind. In the sloka number 11, chapter number 5, Sri Krishna says, Yoginah karma kurvanti sangam chektva atma shuddhaye. Very important line. Atma shuddhaye, for purification of the mind. Atma means your mind. Atma shuddhaye, for purification of mind. Yogina karma kurvanti. Karma yogis perform action. Why? Not to please the society, or I'm doing so much work, not to seek gain or fame, but to purify the mind. How to do action to purify the mind? By working without selfishness. Selfishness means this is my work, putting I there. Selfishness means putting the I there in the work and fruits of work. This is my work, I have to get the benefit. That is selfishness. Giving that up, this is work to be done as worship, as offering, and I'm free from the fruit of action. Whatever comes, I will take, but I will remain calm, equanimous in success, failure. Siddhya siddho samabhutva, as in 248. That attitude will help us to purify the mind, make us free from selfishness. I will become less, mind will become less. I and mind are the selfishness. Removing the I and mind is selflessness. Swami Vivekananda said in the Karma Yoga lecture, please make a mental note of this one. One sentence in the Karma Yoga lecture, which is so important, but I think it is the Mahavakya for the Kali Yuga. Upanishads of Mahavakyas, what Swamiji said in Karma Yoga lecture is Mahavakya for this age, for people like us. What did he say? He said, unselfishness is God. 3 words. Unselfishness is God. 3 words he said. That is what we are aiming at here. If we become totally unselfish, we will become one with God. The more selfish we are, farther away we are from God. More selfless we are, unselfish we are, closer we are pushed to God. In the limiting case, when we become totally unselfish, I and mind is completely gone away from our mind, then we become one with the Lord. That is liberation. That's how Karma Yoga leads us to liberation. It's something that everybody can practice, because everybody is doing karma. Why not we do it as Karma Yoga? Instead of doing selfish karma, do it as unselfish karma. That's all. One little switch has to be made. Change has to be in our attitude. Karma does not change. Same karma we are doing every day, we'll continue to do every day. We don't have to change our karma, do something else. Whatever you are doing, that's our karma. But simply what has to change? Our attitude to karma has to change. It's internal change. Karma yoga is nothing outside. Nobody can tell from outside if they are karma yogi or not. But the way you perform action, your mental attitude will change. That's all that we are required to do. All spiritual practice is only 95% internal. Outside, nothing much changes. Same dress we can wear, same food we can eat, same language we can speak. No need to change any of these things. But what changes? Our attitude to life, to work changes. That's the gist of the sloka number 4. 511. Yogina karma kurvanti sangam tyakva. Giving up attachment. Yogi is performer giving up attachment to karma phala. Why? Atma shuddhaye, for purification of the mind. We have to do the same thing. Second shloka which I want to mention here comes in the 18th chapter, shloka number 5. Chapter 18, shloka number 5. Why you have to perform action at all? Why? This is the reason. There Sri Krishna says, Yajño dhanam tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam yajña dhana tapah karma natyajyam karyameva tat yajño dhanam tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam. 18.5. There Sri Krishna says, everybody has to perform 3 kinds of actions. Yajna, dana, tapa. Yajna means 2 aspects of yajna. Vedic yajna. In the earlier Vedic ages, the people used to perform elaborate Vedic rituals. Those things we cannot do now. How can we perform yajna? Because every day you have to go to work in a government office or a business or a bank or somewhere you have to, or school, somewhere you have to work, or a clinic or somewhere. And then you have to come home and do more work, cooking, cleaning, taking care of children. How can we perform yajna? The answer comes in this chapter. Sri Krishna says, every action we do, without exception, every action we do, including eating, talking, walking, sleeping, opening, closing the eyes, reaching something, holding something, all these actions can be done as yajna. How to do that will come in 3rd and 4th chapter. How can you do every action as yajna? Will be explained later. By performing all our actions as yajna. Yajna is not a separate activity. Yajna is an attitude. Yajna is an attitude. By performing everything as an offering, we perform yajna all the time, including sleeping, eating, walking, talking. That comes in the 9th chapter. We'll study that later. So, 18.5, Yajñodhanam tapaschaiva pavanani manishanam. Pavana means purification. Manishanam for people. Yajñadhana tapas performed as yajna purifies the mind. Mind purification is the only step we have to achieve. No matter what yoga you follow, karma yoga or bhakti yoga or jnana yoga, object is mind purification. Removing the impurities of mind. Once that is accomplished, next step is realization. Next step is liberation. Bhaktas call it union with God, merger with God, pure devotion, prema. Jnanis call it self-realization, I am Brahman. That will happen. So in this way, Sri Krishna is going to show in this chapter how to perform all our actions as yajna and why to perform it as yajna. Because performing all actions yajna purifies the mind, which is a prerequisite, essential prerequisite for God realization, for moksha. That is the goal of this karma yoga. So let us proceed now. Then once again, for the first line of chapter 4, simply trying to say escape work will not work. I gave 2 examples, both from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. There was this gentleman whose name is not given in the Gospel. He was a family householder. One day, Sri Ramakrishna knew him. One day, that gentleman goes to Sri Ramakrishna in the Dakshineshwar Kali temple, and he asks Sri Ramakrishna for permission to stay in the temple. Sri Ramakrishna was staying at the temple, and food was being provided, prasad from the temple, and he was employed as a priest for some time. And this gentleman wanted to stay in the Kali temple. And then he said, food will be provided. Then Sri Ramakrishna asked him, why do you want to stay in the temple? He said, if I stay in the temple, I can meditate on God all the time. So Sri Ramakrishna asked him a question. What about your family? When you come and stay in the temple, who is going to take care of your family? That man had wife and 4 or 5 children. He had a family. And when Sri Ramakrishna asked him, who will take care of your family? This is what he said. I've already sent them to my father-in-law's house. My father-in-law is going to take care of my wife and children. I will meditate on God here. Sri Ramakrishna scolded him, get out of here. He said, go back, get a job, bring your wife and children from your father-in-law's house, take care of them. That's your yoga, that's your karma, that's your spiritual practice. You married, you got children, and you want your father-in-law to take care of your wife and children, and you want to meditate here. That's not going to work. That's not the way. Perform your duty. Abandoning one's duty and thinking I'm going to meditate on God is not going to work. Duty is worship. Duty is meditation. Performing duty is the shortest way to reach God. Not abandoning duty, becoming a kartavya brashta. There's a term called kartavya brashta in Sanskrit. Kartavya means duty. Brashta means only abandons duty. Such a person will never achieve anything, not in this life, not in next life. Forget about liberation, all those things. Therefore, performing duty is the shortest way, simplest way, doing as yajna to reach God. That is one example. His name was Pratap's brother, but his name is not known. Second example, same in Dakshineshwar Kali temple. There was a gentleman, his name was Hazra. He used to stay there. And somehow he managed to get permission to stay in the temple. And he would have a japamala, rosary. He would always do some japa like this. The problem was, he had a family back in the village. His wife was there, old aged mother was there. 4 or 5 children were there. He had some loan he had taken, 1,000 rupees or something, which was a big amount those days. And he did not do anything to pay the loan, and he did nothing to take care of family, wife and children, nothing to take serve his old mother. Came to Dakshineshwar, sat down there doing japa. No matter how many times Sri Ramakrishna told him to go back, get some job, pay back the loan, take care of wife and children, serve the old mother. No, I will see God here. Eventually, he had to leave. Eventually, he had to go back. That is not the way. Trying to escape duty, escape work is not the way at all. Performing our duty diligently, with love, without attachment, offering everything to God as offering our worship. Shortest way, easiest way. Nothing we don't have to change anything. Same work, same place, same language, same food, same dress, everything is same. What changes? Only inward attitude. Inwardly, you have to change that I am doing this as offering, as worship, as offering to my beloved Lord. This is my worship, this is my yoga, this is my yajna. That's all we have to do. Giving up attachment to karma phala, shortest way to purify the mind, shortest way to reach the goal of liberation. That is the gist of this chapter 3. Anybody can do it. Simply changing our attitude is what is required in karma yoga. So let us go now to the next sloka. This is already known very well to us. Sloka number 5 in chapter 3. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jato tishtatya karma krit karyate hyavashah karma sarva prakriti jair gunai. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jato tishtatya karma krit karyate hyavashah karma sarva prakriti jair gunai. Kaschit means any person. Nakaschit means no person, not anyone. Kshanamapi, even for a short moment, kshanam means a moment of time. Even for a short moment, ever, jatu means ever, akarmakrit tishtati. Akarmakrit means not performing action. Physically, it is impossible to not perform any action for a moment. At least some actions are going on in the body. Eating, walking, talking, sleeping, all those things are actions. We can't stop those things. Yeah, we become hungry and we have to go out and find some food. So Sarira Yatra, maintenance of the body requires action. That will come later. Karyate Hyavashah Karma. Avashah means helplessly. Prakriti Gunai Karma Karyate. By the gunas of Prakriti, work will be done through us, through our body mind, inescapably. Actually, this came in the it will come again in third chapter, 27th verse. Even for a moment, Kshanamapi, nobody can escape karma. The inevitability of karma is described in this sloka. Since all have to do karma, can't stop doing karma at all, therefore, why not we turn that karma itself into a spiritual practice? Nothing extra need be made. If you do karma yoga, there is no other additional thing required. Karma itself becomes a spiritual practice. Sri Ramakrishna said in the gospel, karma is liberation. Direct, simplest means. You don't have to go to the forest, giving up job and family and children and perform meditation from morning till night as the rishis of ancient times used to do. It's not for all. Very small number of people can do that one. Majority of people, this is the path. Doing all our work that we have to do anyhow, but changing it as nishkama karma, unselfish action, offering everything to God and become free from attachment to karma, karma phala. Simplest way to liberation, shown in this chapter. And then the sixth verse, a person who poses, pretends to be free from action, but performs action inevitably, such a person is now doing the right thing. That is explained in the shloka number 6. Karmendriyani samyamya yaste manasa smaran indriyarthan vimodhatma mityacharasya uchyate. Karmendriyani samyamya yaste manasa smaran indriyarthan vimodhatma mityacharasya uchyate. The translation is, controlling the organs of action, he who lets his mind dwell on their objects has a confounded mind. He is said to be a hypocrite. It is easy to control sense organs in a physical sense. I can keep my hand closed like this one. I'm not doing anything with my hands. I can keep my eyes closed like that. I'm not saying anything. I can close my ears. I'm not hearing anything. I can do that one. But what about the mind? The mind is thinking of all kinds of sense objects. I'm not eating anything, but I have in my mind how nice it will be if I can have some Mysore pak cheesecake. That thought is, cannot stop in the mind. Mouth is not eating anything, but in mind you are thinking about all kinds of food. That is not Naishkarmya. That's not freedom from action. That is simply becoming untruthful, saying I'm not doing anything but doing all kinds of things in the mind. Mental action is also action. Thinking is action. Speaking is action. With sense organs, we do three kinds of action. So that is not the way to become free from action. So it simply says that we should not do that. We should be truthful. We should be truthful to ourselves. We don't have to please anybody else, but to myself, I have to be truthful. So when I say I cannot become free from action, then we have to perform action in the right way. That's the way to freedom. Then what has to be done? That's explained in sloka number 7. Nice sloka. Yaspindriyani manasa niyamya arjuna karmendriyai karma yogam asaktasya vishishyate. Yastu indriyani manasa niyamya arabate arjuna karmendriyai karma yogam asakta savishishyate. Who is the person who does karma yoga properly is described here. Yaha, that person who manasa indriyani samyamya. By mind, manasa is by mind, controlling sense organs. Mind has to control sense organs, as we saw sometime earlier in the Kathopanishad imagery. Sense organs are like the horses tied to a chariot. Mind is the controlling instrument. Buddhi, intellect is the charioteer. We have to train the sense organs. The mind has to train the sense organs to do the right thing at the right time. Otherwise, sense organs left to themselves, they will do whatever they like to do. If you let the eyes see whatever you do, keeps on saying all kinds of things. The mind must tell the eyes, don't see this, see this. That's the function of the mind. Manasa indriyani samyamya. A person who controls the sense organs by the mind. Mind is a controlling instrument. If the mind has to train the sense organs to do the right thing and abstain from doing the wrong thing, that's the function of the mind. So a person who controls his sense organs with the mind and performs all action with the sense organ, right actions at the right time. Karma yogam कर्मेन्द्रियैः यः असक्तः आरभते, karma आरभते. A person who performs all actions as karma yoga by the sense organ, karmendriya, by the karmendriya. 5 karmendriyas are there. 5 jnanendriyas are there. Engaging the 5 karmendriyas in the proper action with the proper attitude. That's karma yoga. What is the function? What is the doer of that one? Who is the doer? Mind is the doer. The mind has to direct the sense organs, karmendriyas especially, to perform the right karma in the right time, at the right time, in the right way. That is the function of the mind, karma yoga. Karma yoga is mental. Most of it happens in the mind. Externally, same karma, same person, nothing changes. So controlling the sense organs with the mind, he who commences the yoga of action with the organs of action, unattached. Asakta, the key word is asakta, unattached. Asakta comes in a second line. That's the key word in this sloka. Without attachment. Asakti means attachment. Asakta means one who has no attachment. Without attachment to karma, karma phala, if a person performs all actions, such a person is performing karma yoga. Sa vishishade, such a person excels. That person succeeds in becoming a karma yogi, reaches the goal of liberation. Now, next verse, let us do sloka number 8, and then we'll have some time for questions. Very important verse. Niyatam kuru karma tvam karma jayo hya karmanaha sharirayatra pichate na prasiddhyeda karmanaha. Niyatam kuru karma tvam karma jayo hya karmanaha sharirayatra pichate na prasiddhyeda karmanaha. Niyatam karma kuru. Most important instruction in Gita is these 3 words. Niyatam karma kuru. Sri Krishna gives the instruction many times in the Gita. The gist is performing prescribed duties. Niyata karma means required obligatory duties. Everybody has obligatory duties. It's different from person to person. But everybody has obligation to do some duty. No one, even the all renouncing sannyasi also has a duty. His duty is, supposing somebody goes to it in the forest. No family, no job, no money, no place, no property. All think about God. He also has a duty. Though he's away from everything, even if everything, he also has a duty. What is his duty? To think about God. He doesn't have to go to work and maintain a family, but he has to think about God all the time. If he does not do that, then he is not going to reach anywhere. So niyata karma means required duty, obligatory duty. Everybody has obligatory duty. No one is free. But the obligatory duty varies from person to person. If you are working in a government office, you have to go to work every day at 8 o'clock whenever required to do, or work from home. That's your obligatory duty. You can't escape that. Niyatam kuru karmatvam. Karma jayo hyakarmanaha. Jaya means better. Jaya means better. Karma is better than absence. Akarma means escaping action. They can't escape action. It's not good to try to escape action from action. Sharira yatra api chate na prasidit akarma. Akarmana means a person who does not perform action. If a person does not perform action, such a person cannot maintain the body also. Sharira yatra means journey of the body. Yatra means pilgrimage, and the body is going to the journey from birth to death. We are traveling every day towards the goal. That journey also will not be possible. We can't maintain the body unless we try to feed the body. Every day we have to take food. Every day we have to take bath. Every day we have to do exercise. Every day we have to sleep. Those are all activities for body maintenance. If I don't do these things, then I will not be able to keep the body also. Therefore, action is inevitable. The inevitability of action is explained in sloka number 8. How to perform it? Asaktaham, as mentioned in the previous sloka, free from attachment to karma, karma phala. Now, there is one important point that we have to note in connection with this sloka. Karma is inevitable. That's we understood so far. If you do karma one way, it will bind us and keep us in ignorance perpetually, perpetuous ignorance. If we do the karma in a different way, it shows us a way to liberation. Now, Swami Tyagananda gave a very nice example. I like it one. You remember the old-fashioned locks, not the combination number lock. Old-fashioned locks used to have a key, and you have to put the key into the keyhole and turn it one way, it locks. Turn the other way, it opens the lock. If it same key, if you turn it to the left, it opens the lock. You turn it to the right, it closes the lock, locks the lock. Karma is like that. One key, karma is the only key to liberation. Do it one way, more ignorance, you get bound in the world. Turn it and do it the other way, so the freedom is open. Door is open for liberation. So karma is the key. The gist of this sloka, these two previous slokas is karma is the key to success or failure in life for everything. Liberation is the ultimate goal of life. If you do karma one way, you are liberated. Karma shows the way to liberation, freedom. How to do that one? Asakta, free from attachment to karma, karma phala. Way to freedom. Do the karma the other way with attachment to work, with selfishness. I am the doer, I want the result. Karma will bind you back, put you back perpetually in the cycle of birth and death. Which way to do karma is our choice. This sloka, this chapter is going to tell us the way. By performing action in the proper way, we can all achieve liberation. We can all reach God. This beautiful chapter, Karma Yoga, chapter 3. Now, so we have a few minutes. We can open for questions. Next time is a 5-star sloka in chapter 3. We will chant it and study it next time. Sloka number 3-9, chapter 3, sloka number 9. Yajñarthat karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangas samachara. Yajñarthat karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartham karma kaunteya Mukta Sangas Samachara. The gist of the sloka is, if a person performs all action as not as yajna, in selfish way, such a person becomes bound to this world, perpetuates the cycle of ignorance, birth and death. If a person performs action as a yajna, as sacrifice, as offering, then become free from liberation, free from body, achieves liberation. Just like the key, turn it one way, freedom, turn it the other way, bondage. So we'll study the sloka number 9 next time. Now we have a few minutes. We can have questions. If you want to add something or ask something, say something, it's your turn.
3.7, when Krishna is talking about physical action or not doing physical action but still thinking on those objects.
Yeah.
And in 3.7, he's talking about detachment to that or not being attached. Ashokanandaji writes about his something he overheard from the disciples of the master. He says that, or the disciple is saying, sin in mind is no sin at all. And then Ashokanandaji writes that he's very surprised to hear that, but also it gave him hope that as long as there is no attachment to the thoughts in the mind, it will help,
It
or
will
it's
not
still
leave
a
an
hope for him.
impression.
Yeah.
But it comes with a rider.
Right.
Supposing I think bad thoughts,
Right.
and I'm told that your mental sins are not sins. But what happens is, it is difficult to think something not being attached to it. Automatically, your mind is involved in the thought. So you cannot say, I'm not attached to the thought. Therefore, that will not work. We have to keep your mind thinking about pure thoughts only. As much as possible, we should periodically check. Sometimes I do this one. Some days I forget. I should do it all the time. Periodically ask myself, what am I thinking? Because without thinking, whole day goes. Then I should catch myself. What am I thinking now? Is it useful thought or useless thought? Why am I thinking about this? Why this is not what I should be thinking about? Then I divert my mind and think about God right now. I do that checking periodically. We have to do it all the time, but sometimes I forget. So it's a constant struggle. To say that I am not going to be attached by thinking sinful thoughts is not going to work. Mind will be involved in the thought, no matter how much we try. So that's not should not be done.
Abhayji.
Huh?
Namaste, Swamiji.
Namaskar.
Please remind the three accents to purify mind. Repeat, what are the three accents?
Yajna, Dana, Tapa. Yajna, Dana, Tapa. Chapter 18, verse number 5 and 6.
Thank you.
Yajna means either can be ritualistic yajna, but better than that is all karma is yajna. Yajna is an attitude. That will come in this chapter, next chapter also. Dana means charity. Charity also will come in this later chapter, 17 and 18. Not necessarily giving money, that's one kind of charity. Any kind of dana is charity, done without selfishness. Helping somebody or telling somebody something that they don't know, giving knowledge, srama dana, any small action that you do for others without expecting anything is dana. And again, tapa means austerity. Austerity will come in 17th chapter. Austerity of body, shariram tapa. Austerity of speech, manasam tapa. Austerity of mind, austerity of speech is vagmayam tapa. Austerity of mind, body, speech, mind, three kinds of tapas. How to do them are given instruction in 17th chapter. We'll do that later. Yajna, dana, tapa, three kinds of actions.
Thank you.
Everybody has to do.
Namaste.
Swamiji, namaste. Devashish.
Yes.
Yeah, from Greensboro. Actually, you already touched on it because I was just going to ask you. Beautifully explained the yajna. That is an attitude. Now,
that will come in this chapter, next chapter in detail. Briefly, it is like this. Yajna means doing something without expecting anything in return. General definition of yajna. Doing something as offering, as giving up, without expecting anything in return. That attitude is called yajna. How to do it in every possible action we'll study later in this chapter.
My question is about dana. Dana, what do you exactly mean by dana? Is it giving something in terms of
something
money
that other people can use, need, to fulfill a need, without expecting anything in return? Dana will come in later chapter. That is unselfish dana. Left hand should not know what the right hand gives. Telling everybody, I gave this so much money to donation, telling I did so much help to this person, that will make the dana useless. So without publicizing, without expecting something in return, Just giving it and offering it as I've done my part, and that's the end of the transaction. That will purify the mind. Unselfish dana.
Selfish dana.
Okay.
Thank you.
It can be anything, need not be only money. Any kind of dana, anything that you give.
Like knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah, yes. Jnana yajna.
Yes.
Jnana dana. If there are no questions, we can say the closing prayer. Okay. Closing prayer. Om sarve bhavantu sukhinah. Sarve santu niramayah. Sarve bhadrani pasyamtu. Ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shanti. Om, may all be happy, may all be free from diseases, may all realize what is noble and auspicious, may no one be subject to misery. Om, peace, may there be peace and joy in our hearts, may there be peace and harmony amongst all beings, may there be peace everywhere in nature. Hari Om Tat Sat Sarvam Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Thank you all and very happy to see all of you do on these small screen images. That's the best we can do now. All of you stay well and study and go about your life peacefully, joyfully, thinking of God all the time. All the best.